AWS EC2 Instance Description. Elastic Compute Cloud EC2 instances are virtual servers in the cloud. They provide on-demand compute capacity and are a core component of many AWS services. Prerequisites: AWS account, AWS CLI, use cases, web server hosting, application deployment, data processing, machine learning, game development, high-performance computing, big data analytics, development and testing environments. Steps: launch an EC2 instance, connect to the instance, install software, configure security, configure storage, configure networking. Challenges and fixes: instance not starting. Check instance state. Use the AWS Management Console or the AWS CLI to check the instance state. If the instance is in a stopped or terminated state, you will need to start or launch a new instance. Verify security groups. Ensure that the security group associated with the instance allows inbound traffic on the port used for starting pay. Instance typically port 22 for SSH. Check for errors in the launch configuration. Review the launch configuration for any errors, such as incorrect AMI selection, insufficient storage, or missing security groups. Unable to connect to instance. Verify security group rules. Ensure that the security group associated with the instance allows inbound traffic on the port used for connecting. Typically port 22 for SSH. Ensure SSH key is correct. Verify that the SSH key pair you are using to connect to the instance is the correct one. Check instance status. Ensure that the instance is running and in a healthy state. Check network connectivity. Ensure that your network connection is working properly and that you can access other servers on the internet. Check DNS resolution. Ensure that you can resolve the instance's DNS name or IP address. Instance performance issues. Check instance type. Select an instance type that meets the performance requirements of your application. Optimize instance configuration. Optimize the instance's configuration to improve performance, such as adjusting the number of CPU cores, memory, storage, and network bandwidth. Increase instance size if the instance is experiencing performance issues. Consider increasing the instance size to provide more resources. Optimize application code. Ensure that your application is optimized for performance and resource utilization. Instance cost concerns. Use spot instances. Spot instances are a cost-effective option for non-critical workloads that can tolerate interruptions. Optimize instance utilization. Ensure that your instances are only running when needed and that they are properly sized for your workloads. Shut down instances when not in use. Stop or terminate instances when they are not in use to reduce costs. Use reserved instances. Reserved instances offer a significant cost savings compared to on-demand instances for applications that have stable and predictable workloads. Instance security vulnerabilities. Keep software up to date. Regularly patch and update the operating system and applications installed on the instance. Use strong passwords. Use strong and unique passwords for all user accounts on the instance. Configure security groups. Configure security groups to restrict inbound and outbound traffic to the instance. Use security scanning tools. Use security scanning tools to identify and mitigate security vulnerabilities. Enable security features. Enable security features such as Amazon Inspector and Amazon Guard Duty to monitor for security threats. Use AWS Identity and Access Management in configuring roles and policies to control access to resources. Apply security best practices. Follow security best practices for cloud computing, such as the AWS well-architected framework. Implement intrusion detection and prevention systems. Use intrusion detection and prevention systems (IDPS) to monitor for malicious activity and block attacks. Encrypt data at rest and in transit to protect it from unauthorized access. Use multi-factor authentication (MFA). Implement MFA for user accounts to enhance security. Implement least privilege. Grant only the necessary permissions to users and applications. Regularly audit security configurations. Regularly review and audit security configurations to ensure that they are effective. Use AWS Security Hub. Use Security Hub to consolidate security findings from various AWS services and third-party tools. Enable logging and monitoring. Enable logging and monitoring to detect and respond to security incidents. Implement a security incident response plan. Develop and test a security incident response plan to handle security breaches effectively. Train employees on security best practices. Train employees on security best practices to reduce the risk of human error. Use AWS Shield. Use Shield to protect applications from DDoS attacks. Use Amazon VPC. Configure Amazon VPC to create a private network for your instances. Use AWS WAF. Use WAF to protect your applications from common web attacks. Use AWS CloudTrail. Use CloudTrail to audit API calls and events. Use AWS Config. Use Config to track resource configuration changes. Use AWS KMS. Use KMS to manage encryption keys. Use AWS Organizations. Use organizations to manage multiple AWS accounts.